The Lumiere Bistro was a place where wealth whispered rather than shouted. Nestled in the heart of Boston's Beacon Hill, it was the kind of establishment where truffle oil drizzled on souffle cost more than most people's rent, and the cutlery had a sheen that said generational money. Every table had its own mood lighting, privacy curtain, and signature floral arrangement. Ava Johnson did not belong here, not in theory. At 27, Ava worked double shifts and lived with her younger brother in a modest apartment in Dorchester. She wore a perfectly ironed uniform, kept her hair tied in a neat low bun, and said, "Yes, ma'am," and "Of course, sir," with grace. But no matter how polished her delivery, some customers never looked her in the eye. They didn't have to. People like her were part of the backdrop. Until today. It was 11:37 a.m. when the hostess brought her over with a clipboard and a confused look. She's at table 9, alone, but she's a child. Ava blinked. What? A VIP reservation, last name Langford. Ava, just keep an eye, but don't engage. Ms. Langford made it clear she didn't want interruptions. Ava walked across the hushed bistro to the semi-private VIP section. Table 9 sat near the window, where filtered sun poured in like liquid gold. There, perched on a velvet-cushioned chair, was a young girl, no older than 10. Her hands were folded in her lap. Her dress was pale lilac, pressed to perfection. A single braid ran over her shoulder. But what struck Ava most were her eyes, open, unmoving, searching. They didn't focus. They didn't follow. She's blind, Ava realized. Her heart ached as she stood by the curtain, half hidden, observing. Lily Langford sat perfectly still, the way someone might if they were terrified to break anything. A half-full glass of water stood before her. The plate was untouched. The vase in the center was slightly askew. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. No mother, no guardian, no food. Should I bring her something? Ava asked the manager quietly. He shook his head. Do not interfere. That's Victoria Langford's daughter. You know, the biotech queen? She specifically told us to wait until she returned. This table's worth more in PR than a week's revenue. Don't mess it up. Ava gritted her teeth. But she's just a kid. She's a Langford, the manager said. Stay in your lane. At 12:05 it happened. Lily reached for her glass and accidentally nudged the vase. It tipped. Water and orchids spilled in an elegant, horrifying splash across the tablecloth. The sound of glass shattering echoed through the bistro. Everyone turned. Lily froze, her lip trembling. I'm sorry, she whispered to no one, blinking rapidly, face flushed with shame. Her hands hovered uselessly in front of her, not sure what to fix, not sure what she'd broken besides the silence. Ava didn't care about the rules anymore. She moved. Within seconds, she was by the girl's side, kneeling, not hovering like staff, sitting at her level. Hey, she said softly, it's okay. Nothing's broken that can't be replaced. Lily turned toward the voice. I didn't mean to. I know, Ava said. You were just reaching for your water. Here, let me help. She dabbed at the spill with her apron, gently removing the glass shards. Then she pulled out a clean napkin and placed it into Lily's hands. There, she said with a warm smile. Now it's officially a creative floral arrangement. Lily giggled, a small stifled sound that hadn't seen daylight in a long time. Ava leaned in. What's your name? Lily? Hi, Lily. I'm Ava. Are you hungry? Lily hesitated. A little. Ava stood. Well, I know the chef here. He owes me a favor. Want to hear what's on the secret menu? Lily smiled again, this time wider. Yes, please. Over the next 40 minutes, Ava did more than serve food. She told stories. She painted constellations with words, described music with color. She told Lily how Mozart would have sounded like autumn if you closed your eyes and listened with your chest. She described the shape of laughter, the color of kindness. She didn't ask what happened to Lily's vision. She didn't push. She simply made the space warm again. She fed Lily tiny forkfuls of soft salmon with lemon glaze, described every bite before it touched her lips. She laughed when Lily asked if rich people really ate flowers. She sang one verse of a Stevie Wonder song under her breath, and Lily whispered, "I like your voice." What neither of them knew was that they were being watched. From across the street, inside a luxury black SUV, a tall woman with sharp cheekbones and icy green eyes sat behind tinted glass. Victoria Langford, CEO of Langford Biotech, worth $3.1 billion, brilliant, ruthless, untouched by scandal. And in this moment, frozen, she had returned early, had seen the shattered vase, the waitress breaking rank, the intimate way her daughter smiled at a stranger. She had not gone inside. Not yet. At 12:57, the door opened. The manager rushed to greet her. "Ms. Langford, please, your table." She raised a hand to silence him. Inside, Ava was just finishing a story about a blind astronaut who learned to navigate through sound. Lily was hanging on every word. Victoria stepped into the room. Her heels clicked against the floor like gunshots. Ava stood instantly. The air turned cold. Lily flinched. "Mom?" "I'm here, darling," Victoria said calmly. "Thank you for your patience." She turned to Ava. "How much do I owe you?" Ava blinked. "Excuse me?" "For the food and the childcare." Ava straightened her spine. "You owe me nothing. She was hungry. She was scared. I acted like a human being, not a server." Silence. Victoria tilted her head. "Is that your professional opinion?" Ava didn't flinch. "No, ma'am. That's my personal one." Victoria said nothing more. She took Lily by the hand and left without another word. An hour later, Ava was fired. "Protocol violation," the manager said. "You were warned. She's a VIP." Ava didn't argue. She just packed her things. But something inside her had shifted. Not the rage, not the shame. Something quieter, like purpose. She had touched something real today. And the truth was, she would have done it again. At 9:03 p.m., her phone rang. The number was blocked. "Ms. Johnson," came a woman's clipped voice. "You're requested at Langford Biotech headquarters tomorrow, 10 a.m. "For what?" "Ms. Langford will explain in person." Click. Langford Biotech HQ was made of glass and stone, all sharp angles, sterile lighting, and an air of omnipotence. Ava had never felt smaller, walking into a building. A woman in a gray suit guided her through a labyrinth of elevators and glass corridors until they arrived at a door that simply read, "Victoria Langford, CEO." She entered. Victoria sat behind a marble desk, hands folded, gaze unreadable. "I conducted a social experiment," she said. Ava stared. "I left my daughter at Lumiere for 2 hours. Dozens of people passed. Servers, guests, strangers. No one stopped. No one asked if she was okay. Her voice did not tremble. You were the only one who did. Ava's eyes narrowed. You used your daughter to test humanity? Victoria's jaw tightened. I needed to know if the world still held decency, if the blindness I caused her didn't also blind her to hope. Ava froze. You what? Victoria looked out the window. 5 years ago, we were driving home. I took a call. I shouldn't have. She screamed before I even hit the guardrail. There it was, the shame, hidden in bone. I've given her every surgery, every specialist, she whispered, but I never told her the truth. I let her believe it was fate, a mistake. Ava sat in stunned silence. Then, you're asking me to pretend it didn't happen? No. Victoria turned. I'm asking you to help fix it. Be her companion, her guide, live in. Full benefits, $150,000 a year. I'll double your old salary tenfold. Ava stood slowly. I'm not for sale, and your daughter isn't an experiment. She's a child, a brilliant, beautiful child, and she deserves the truth. Victoria's lips twitched, almost a smile. Then you're exactly who she needs. Ava didn't say yes that day. She left Langford Biotech with a business card in her pocket and fire in her chest. There was something about the coldness of Victoria Langford that made her feel like she needed to take a hot shower just to remember who she was. But Lily, that little girl's voice still echoed in her mind. I like your voice. You smell like sunshine. Will you come back? The next morning, Ava returned, not because of the money, not because of the offer, but because of Lily. She found herself at the Langford estate, a sprawling, ultra-modern fortress outside Boston, where the trees looked trimmed by engineers, and silence was part of the architecture. Ava was greeted not by Victoria, but by Lily. She sat cross-legged in a sunroom that seemed designed for photo shoots, her fingers gliding across the keys of a braille tablet. You came, Lily whispered. I did. And with those two words, something shifted. Days passed, then weeks. Ava moved into the guest suite on the west wing. It was the size of her entire apartment. The Langfords had staff, a driver, a chef, a cleaner. But Ava wasn't there to be a staff member. She was there to be with Lily, and Lily clung to her like a lifeline. They created rituals, warm baths scented with lavender, evening stories where Ava described cities through touch, cobblestone in Paris, jazz in New Orleans. Ava taught her how to chop strawberries by feel, how to fold origami animals with just pressure and patience. And in return, Lily opened up. I can tell when people lie, she said one evening, curled beside Ava on a couch. Their voices change. My mom lies a lot. Ava didn't answer. She says I'll get better one day, but I can tell she doesn't believe it. Ava swallowed. She says she's too busy to sit with me because she wants to save the world. But I think she just doesn't know how to talk to me anymore. A pause. Do you think that makes her a bad person? Ava hesitated, then said, I think it makes her a hurt person. It was during her second month in the house that Ava found the file. She hadn't meant to snoop, but Victoria's office door was slightly ajar, the light on, and papers lay scattered across the floor like a confession too tired to hide. Ava knelt. There, half visible in a stack of printed reports, was a folder labeled Crash Site, May 14th, internal memo, sealed. Inside were photos of a crumpled SUV, police reports, time-stamped phone logs, and one handwritten note. Driver distracted. Incoming call. Victoria Langford. Fatal negligence suspected. Suppressed. Her blood turned cold. Victoria hadn't just caused the crash. She'd buried the truth. With the help of corporate lawyers, media leverage, and money, a lot of it. Ava took a single photo of the document with her phone, then carefully put everything back. She didn't tell Lily, not yet. Instead, she called someone she hadn't spoken to in years. Andrew Langford was Victoria's younger brother, a civil rights attorney, and a black sheep. He met Ava at a coffee shop near Harvard Law. Tall, kind-eyed, and disarmingly soft-spoken, Andrew looked nothing like his sister, except when he listened fully, without flinching. "I've always suspected something," he said, after reviewing the photo. "But no one could get close enough. Victoria controls everything." "Not anymore," Ava said. "I'm in." He studied her. "Why are you doing this?" "Because Lily deserves the truth, and Victoria needs to face it, not as a CEO, but as a mother." Andrew nodded. "Let me help." The confrontation came sooner than expected. A week later, Ava found herself in the grand living room of the Langford estate. The sun had set. The curtains were drawn. Lily sat nearby, wearing headphones but not listening. Andrew stood beside Ava. And Victoria. She stood like a general, controlled, untouchable, until Ava spoke. "You lied." Victoria blinked. "Excuse me?" Ava stepped forward. "You caused that crash. You've let your daughter live in the dark, not just literally, but emotionally, and it ends now." Lily slowly removed her headphones. "I heard," she whispered. "I always hear." Victoria turned pale. "I love you," Lily said, voice trembling. "But I hate that you think I'm too weak for the truth. I lost my sight, not my strength." The words hit harder than anything Ava could have said. Victoria staggered back a step, and in that moment, something inside her cracked. For the first time in years, she cried, not the tears of a polished CEO, but of a mother. That night, Victoria agreed to seek a new treatment, one she'd refused out of fear, or maybe guilt. It was experimental, risky, but there was hope. Lily asked Ava to be there through it all, and Ava never left her side. Not for the injections, not for the tests, not for the days when Lily woke up shaking and afraid, not even when Victoria begged her to take time off. "I'm her anchor," Ava said simply, "and I'm not letting go." 6 months passed. The doctors said it would be slow, frustrating, partial at best. But the day came on a quiet Tuesday morning, when Lily sat in the garden with Ava and suddenly gasped. "I see light," she whispered. "Not clearly, but it's there." Ava dropped to her knees. Lily reached out, and this time her fingers found Ava's cheek without searching. "I see. You," she said, barely a breath. "Not everything, but enough to know you glow." Ava cried for the first time since it all began. Lily Langford was learning to see again, not just with her eyes, but with her spirit. Shapes came first, then vague colors, light, shadows. The world revealed itself to her in fragments, like a puzzle rearranging itself piece by piece. She often said it felt like waking up underwater. Everything blurry, everything slow, but still awake. And always, Ava was there. When Lily first recognized her outline in the sunbeam, her breath caught. "That's you, isn't it?" Ava nodded. "It's me, baby girl." "You look like music," Lily whispered. Soft, warm. Those words would stay with Ava forever. Victoria Langford changed too, but in quieter ways. She was still cold at times, still too quick to snap, still too comfortable with control. But guilt had humbled her, and Lily's quiet bravery had cracked her open. Slowly, she began making space for discomfort, for connection, for truth. She called Ava into her office one evening, voice low, hand steady. "I'm stepping down." Ava's eyebrows raised. "Langford Biotech will continue, but I can't run it anymore. I need to make amends, not just to Lily, to the world we've harmed in the name of innovation." Ava said nothing, only nodded. Victoria opened a folder and slid it across the desk. Langford Site Initiative. Proposal. Ava Johnson, Executive Director. "I want you to lead this," Victoria said, "to create real access, free care, vision clinics in underserved communities, mobile units, research grants, everything I should have been doing all along." Ava hesitated. "I'm not a doctor. I'm not even—" "You're the reason my daughter wants to live again," Victoria interrupted. "And you're the reason I see myself clearly for the first time in years. That's more than enough." Ava took a breath, then signed her name. Not for the title, for the mission. The Langford Site Initiative launched that spring with a $50 million endowment. The first clinic opened in Roxbury, not far from Ava's childhood apartment. A second followed in Oakland, then Detroit, then Baltimore. And Ava? She didn't just run the program, she designed it. The exam rooms were decorated in color, not sterile white. The staff reflected the communities they served. Interpreters, braille signage, accessibility tech that most hospitals never bothered to fund. When asked why she focused so much on minority areas, Ava answered simply, "Because we've been in the dark long enough." Lily began painting. She was still visually impaired, but her doctors called it partial functional vision. With guidance and light training, she learned to make out lines, then colors, then broad forms. She'd sit for hours with canvases, Ava by her side, describing the world as she saw it. "I like yellow," she said once. "It feels like Ava's laugh." Her art was chaotic and wild and alive. One day, she painted a swirling mess of violet and white. In the bottom corner, a single spot of gold. "What's it called?" Ava asked. "Truth," Lily said. "It's messy, but it glows." Andrew Langford continued to support from the sidelines. After the confrontation with his sister, he'd become something of a quiet guardian for both Lily and Ava. He and Ava worked late into the night on legal frameworks for the initiative, ensuring no future board or CEO could ever corrupt it for profit. It wasn't long before his admiration deepened. Their first kiss happened in the clinic garden, surrounded by soft music from a teen volunteer on keyboard. Andrew had been telling Ava about a legal loophole she'd just helped close when he suddenly stopped. "You have no idea how rare you are," he whispered. Ava raised a brow. "Are you flirting with your boss?" He grinned. "Only a little." They laughed and kissed, And for the first time in years, Ava let herself lean into love. Victoria kept her distance. She visited Lily weekly but stayed no longer than necessary. She brought gifts, made donations, gave speeches. But she understood now that presence could not be bought. Trust had to be rebuilt, brick by slow brick. One day, Lily asked her directly, "Why didn't you tell me it was your fault?" Victoria hesitated, then sat. "I was ashamed." "You thought I'd hate you?" "I thought I didn't deserve to be forgiven." Lily was quiet a long time. Then it's a good thing forgiveness isn't about deserving. 6 months later, at the Boston Children's Museum, the Langford Site Initiative hosted its first Youth Art Gala. Lily's painting, Truth, hung in the center. Attendees included doctors, activists, community members, celebrities, and 300 kids who had received vision treatment in the last year. As the lights dimmed and a hush fell over the crowd, Ava stepped onto the stage in a midnight blue dress, her curls loose, her voice steady. "This began with a little girl sitting at a table, waiting to be seen," she said. "Not just visually, but fully, as a human, as a soul." She paused, scanning the room. "Tonight, we honor not just the miracle of sight, but the miracle of being seen, of choosing compassion when no one's watching." Applause swelled. Then Lily stepped forward, holding a small painting wrapped in silk. She handed it to Ava and spoke into the mic. "I used to think darkness meant fear," she said. "Now I know it means waiting for someone like Ava. She's the reason I believed I could see again. She was my light." Ava's eyes welled. She hugged Lily close. The room erupted. A week later, Ava stood alone in her office, looking at the painting Lily had gifted her. It was simple. 2 silhouettes on a bench under a sky made of stars. One tall, one small. A single white ribbon ran between their hands like light made solid. At the bottom, written in childish handwriting, "Not all guides have maps. Some just have hearts." A knock. Andrew stepped in, holding an envelope. "You ready?" Ava smiled. "What's this?" He handed it over. A letter from the White House. She had been selected to co-chair the National Vision Equity Commission, the first civilian ever appointed to such a role. Ava sat down slowly. "I used to get yelled at for being 5 minutes late with soup." Andrew laughed. "Now you're writing national health care reform." She looked at him. "Promise me something." "Anything." "If I ever forget what this was about, if I start sounding like a boardroom and not a person, remind me." He kissed her forehead. "I will. But you won't." On the anniversary of their first meeting, Ava and Lily returned to Lumiere Bistro. It looked smaller now. The host didn't recognize them. They sat at table 9. Ava ordered warm peach tea. Lily asked for lemon cake with extra cream. They didn't talk about what had happened. They talked about constellations and music and the way lavender smells like bedtime. And then Lily opened a sketchbook. It was a new drawing, this one in full color, a sunrise, jagged and wild, vibrant. "This is what I see now," she said softly. "Not perfectly, but enough." Ava blinked back tears. "Enough for what?" Lily smiled. "To believe in the light." Ava Johnson never returned to restaurant work, but her face appeared on Time magazine's cover as one of The 100 Women Reshaping the Future. Lily Langford published a book of poetry and art called Blind Sky, Bright Heart. Proceeds went to the initiative. Victoria donated 70% of her wealth to global site equity programs. She now teaches ethics in biotech at MIT. And Andrew, he married Ava on a quiet spring morning beneath a canopy of dogwood trees. Lily, wearing a pale yellow dress, was the one who walked Ava down the aisle. "I may not see everything clearly," she whispered that day, "but I see love, and that's more than enough."